The village in it with a map and a plan. No place too tiny for this determined man. Crossing the counties one by one, you'll see in every English corner a bit of history.
Hello folks, welcome back to Hinckley and Bosworth again. Now then, in this episode we're going to be talking a bit about a former lottery winner who won £6.5 million a few years ago. He's got an interesting tale to tell, let me tell you. Now, he used to live within this village here, which I'm walking through now. And I'm walking at the moment from one end to the other, and I'm just going to walk straight back. It's going to take me no more than about 10 minutes because that's how small this place is. It's the smallest one I've got for you in this initial Hinckley and Bosworth run. Having said that, it does have a few other far-flung areas as well, which are mostly on the A447 that all belong to the parish. This is Osbaston. Osbaston, Asbjorn's farm. Today in Hinckley and Bosworth we're moving north along the A447 away from the district's main town and towards northwest Leicestershire. If you do that, you'll pass through a place that's scattered along the edge of that road for quite a distance. It has several distinct sections though. This is Osbaston, which developed initially around a Norman manor house, which is now represented by a grand hall. The manor had several owners, including Sir Thomas Pope Blount, the man considered responsible for the demolition and reconstruction of the original house. The village grew around the house, but most of the buildings in Osbaston now are fairly modern, seeing as the place was completely rebuilt just before the turn of the 19th century. All of that can be found in the main cluster, which is a short linear affair off the A447. However, travel to the north from there and you'll find there are other areas that still belong to Osbaston Parish. One of them is called Osbaston Hollow, where there's not much more than a pub called the Gate. Between the two is a crossroads, sometimes known as Osbaston Tollgates. From it, you can reach Barton and the Beans and Carlton to the west and Barlestone to the east. Osbaston's boundaries cover part of Barlestone, containing that village's dental practice and one of its shops. Some notable people have lived here. Other than Sir Thomas Blount, one such man is the poet Francis Noel Clark Mundy, and another is a former lottery winner and a convicted criminal. It's a fun one this, but it's definitely not an easy one to walk around. Come with me folks, and let's put it on the map. Okay, so I'm just about to start the walk, which is going to take me, like I say, no more than about 10 minutes. And I've got a cheerleader. Look at this. Hi. Have you come to wish me good luck on walking through Osbaston? I'm sure I'm not going to need it. Very, very easy village this. So, let's go. Let's see what this one's all about. This is Osbaston Village, a simple linear settlement which only has two main roads. They are Osbaston Lane, which forms the main street, and Hall Lane, which runs between it and the A447. It's a residential village for the most part, although its properties are sparse and spaced out quite a bit. Lengthwise, Osbaston is less than half a mile from end to end. This, though, is the main village cluster, and there are some other, more far-flung parts to it. For example, there are several farms located both in and around the village. Most notable among those is the one at Osbaston House, a 250-acre goat farm which dates back to 1908. Another is Fields Farm, which was once lived in by a man called Lee Ryan, who came originally from Leicester. Ryan won the lottery in 1995 and made history in the process. A small-time criminal, he was the first lottery winner ever to be serving a jail sentence. At the time of his win, he was still in jail for handling stolen goods, meaning he didn't get to enjoy the money for 9 months. He had fixated on becoming a millionaire after spending his first spell behind bars in 1986, and incredibly won the jackpot just 17 weeks after the lottery started. Ryan split from his wife in 2003 and put the Osbaston property on the market before moving to Kyrgyzstan in Central Asia. There, his attempts to invest £2 million in a new business spectacularly backfired. He now lives in Twickenham, southwest London, and most recently was seen working as a painter and decorator. Although he regards his lotto win as more trouble than it was worth, he also credits it with saving him from another, more serious jail term. I say fair play to that. You can't deny he certainly chose a good place to live. Osbaston has seen a few well-known people live within its boundaries down the years. In 1739, the poet Francis Noel Clark Mundy was born in the village at Osbaston Hall. More on him shortly. Lee Ryan might not live here anymore, but a man who still does is Lieutenant Colonel Duncan Fymister, the retired chief executive of George Eliot Hospital in Nuneaton. He served in the TA and was acting commanding officer of Camp Bastion between April and July 2009. Osbaston Hall is a privately owned country house and a Grade 2 listed building. The oldest fabric of the house dates from the late 16th or early 17th centuries, but the majority of it is 18th century. It sits on the site of a manor house around which Osbaston would have initially grown. The manor was acquired by the Wrightson family in the mid-17th century and passed to the Mundy family when Philippa Wrightson, heiress to the estate, married Francis Mundy of Markeaton Hall. The old manor house was rebuilt in about 1720 by Wrightson Mundy, the High Sheriff of Derbyshire and MP for Leicester in 1737. It's had several owners since then. In 1827 it was acquired by Thomas Cope, the High Sheriff of Leicestershire, in 1856. Another Thomas Cope was in 1918 created the first of the Cope baronets of Osbaston. The house was sold to Jonathan Guinness in 1966 and later to the Delisles, who still own it today. In 1739, the house was the birthplace of Francis Noel Clark Mundy, by whom the estate was sold in 1766. Mundy was a poet, a landowner and a magistrate, and in 1772 he was also the High Sheriff of Derbyshire. His most noted poem was written to defend Needwood Forest, which was enclosed at the beginning of the 19th century. He was the son of Wrightson Mundy and his wife Anne. That made him a direct descendant and heir of Sir John Mundy, who owned the manors of Markeaton, Alistree and Mackworth. He was also a direct descendant of Edward III and of Philippa, Countess of Ulster. As such, he was also a descendant of the Plantagenet kings, as well as William the Conqueror, the Dukes of Normandy and Alfred the Great. Blimey, that's quite a family tree. Mundy was the author of two admired descriptive poems, Needwood Forest in 1776 and The Fall of Needwood in 1808. Needwood Forest was a large ancient woodland in Staffordshire which was destroyed under the authority of the Needwood Forest or Chase Enclosure Act in 1801. Despite protests, it was removed by 1811. Now, Anna Seward regarded the Needwood Forest poem as beautiful and persistently promoted Mundy's poetry, writing verses in praise of it. However, she also claimed that large portions of Needwood Forest were actually written by herself and by Erasmus Darwin. Needwood Forest was well regarded in its time and is an example of the provincial verse that was starting to become a feature of late 18th century English literature. The poem, which is in 5 parts, is written in octosyllabic couplets and contains allusions to Milton, Spenser, Denham and Pope. It was initially only printed privately, but Seward tried to persuade Mundy to publish it publicly. In 1830, 2 volumes were published which made available the many poems not published during Mundy's lifetime. Mundy is a well-remembered man. In 1851, William Mundy, his grandson, paid for a memorial window to be installed in Markeaton Church. So as far as on foot goes, we are done with Osbaston. There's nothing else to walk to, but that doesn't mean we're finished with this place just yet. Everything else will be done in the car because, you see, Osbaston Parish is not just about this village. There's loads of other things within its boundaries that we need to talk about. So let's head to the car and go for a drive. The rest of Osbaston Parish is scattered along the length of the A447. This road used to be a turnpike, one of the many that crisscrossed Leicestershire in times gone by. This one ran from Hinckley in Leicestershire to Melbourne in Derbyshire. It was built in 1760 and passed through several towns and villages, including the likes of Ibstock, Ravenstone and Swannington, as well as smaller hamlets like Osbaston. It was a key road for transport in the area. Connected to the road was a tramway providing access to the Coal Orton Railway in order to facilitate the transportation of coal. As well as the main Hinckley to Melbourne route, it had two branches, one from Ibstock to Measham and another from Coalorton to Bredon. Today, the route of the Turnpike is largely followed by not just the A447, but also other modern roads like the B4667 and the B587. Various toll gates were located along the route, including Huash Gate, Froggatt's Lane Gate and Limby Hall Lane Bar. There was also one at Osbaston. The toll gates were located either on or near to these crossroads. Even today, despite the disappearance of turnpikes across the nation, this area is still known as Osbaston Toll Gates. You might think it's just where two roads meet now, but head east towards Barlestone and you'll discover Osbaston Parish has a significant presence up here. This small residential area is part of Barlestone village, but it belongs to Osbaston Parish. As Barlestone has continually expanded outwards, and we'll learn about that later in the week, it's encroached on the parish boundaries, spilling over into Osbaston at the area around the former Turnpike toll gates. It contains a dental practice and a corner shop, but mostly it's residential. Weirdly, without this area, Osbaston's population would be minuscule. Most of its residents actually live here. We have one final area to see. A bit further up the old turnpike is Osbaston Hollow. This contains a farm and a pub, both sited on the A447. Osbaston Hollow is also sometimes referred to as part of Tollgates, and that explains the presence of this pub. Simply named the Gate Inn, its location and moniker is likely related to its historical function as a toll gate on the turnpike, but nobody knows for sure if that's where it comes from. In any event, the gate is a relatively new addition to the area, not possessing the centuries-old history of Osbaston Hall or even of the turnpike itself. It's a modern, family-friendly pub offering a range of food and drink, including real ales and a varied menu. Lovely stuff indeed. With that, we're done with Osbaston and we can move on to the next one. Now, for the next 3 episodes here in Hinckley and Bosworth, we're going to be seeing a trio of villages that all have historic connections to coal mining. Get ready for a lot of pit wheel memorials. See you tomorrow for the first one. Now, just before I go, remember, this video is part of a huge project to visit every civil parish in England. That's more than 10,000. These routes are pre-planned, and due to time constraints, I can't cover every detail or walk down every street. Please don't complain if this video missed something out. I pronounce names how I choose to. I am very aware that local dialect may vary, and I don't take kindly to criticism about this. You've been warned. It's impossible to know everything too. If this video was terrible, make your own. If you're a regular watcher of The Village Idiot, you're not the only one. If you've got a small business, why not use my videos to advertise it? Leave a comment below if you're interested. And finally, thanks for watching this episode, everybody. Give us a like and a subscribe if you've enjoyed this episode, and share it with your friends and relatives. It all helps to keep this mission going. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as The Village Idiot, and I'm out.